This is the second exercise in your homework for Chapter 6, and we're going to be looking at a static versus a flexible budget. Again, this is algorithmic, so the numbers will be different from mine versus yours, but the process will be the same. Rather than reading all the information, I'm going to go down and say, what's it asking me to do first? And it says, prepare a flexible budget for the actual units produced for January, February, and March. In the machining department, assume depreciation is a fixed cost. Enter all amounts as positive numbers, and if required, use per unit amounts carried out to the nearest cent. Okay? So, units, it gives us information here. It says the production supervisor was happy with it, and we had monthly production costs, wages at 378, utilities 17, depreciation at 29, total of 424. That's a static budget, just using that monthly. If, on the other hand, we're going to consider the flexible budget, we'll do that based on the units produced. So for January, 63,000. Our fixed costs being the same, but the the variable cost will change based on the units produced. Our February budget 58,000, March 52,000. So we can go down here and go ahead and enter those production amounts. So we have 63,000. We have 58,000 and 52,000. So I've entered those from right here. Now, our wages, it says our wages per hour are $22. So we can say $22 per hour, but this gives me production units, doesn't give me hours, but it does tell me my direct labor hours per unit is 0.25. So I can multiply the 63,000 times 0.25, and that tells me that I have 15,750 hours times $22. So that would be 346,500. My utility cost is $1 per, so that's going to be based on the number of units, or per direct labor hour, sorry, 15,750. Remember, I got that number by taking the total production of 63 times 0.25. That gives me the number of production hours. Okay? Depreciation, that is a fixed cost, 29,000. So my total then would be the 346,500 plus the 15,750 plus the 29,000. And that looks like 391,250. Now we can do the same thing for February. In this case, I have 58,000 units. Multiply that times the 0.25, the number of hours per unit, 0.25. So 58,000 times 0.25. That equals 14,500. We already know that my direct labor, or my utilities, is $1 per, so 14,500. And my wages are $22 per hour, so that's 319,000. So I took the 14,500 hours, direct labor hours, times $22, just taking that same information. My fixed cost is still going to be 29,000. So I can add these numbers together. And it looks like 362,500. So I've gone through and I've calculated my wages using the same thing, where I took the units times 0.25 and then multiply it by the hours, and I get 286. I take the number of direct labor hours, multiply it by $1, and I get my utilities, my fixed cost of 29. Now I'm going to add those together for the period. And that equals 328. We'll go ahead and check my work. So I'm doing so far. Okay, so I'm looking good there. Now the next thing it says, compare the flexible with the actual expenditures for the 3 months and enter all amounts as positive. So the flexible budget for January would be $391,250. For February, I'm going to take the $362,500. And for March, I'm going to take the $328,000. My actual costs, I'm going to come up here to the top. We have $399, $384, and $364. So that was here, $399, $384, and $364. And now I can look at whether I was over or under budget. So my actual cost exceed my flexible budget, so I would have the difference then of $399 minus the $391,250. That looks like I have an excess of $77.50. In February, we have $384 minus $362,500. That's $21,500. And in March, we have $364 minus $328. That looks like $36,000. And we can check our numbers. Alright, so everything's looking good so far. The machining department has performed better than originally thought. No. The department is spending more than would be expected, and that would be a yes. Okay? I hope this has helped. I'll post this up on YouTube.